Good morning, everyone, and happy Tuesday. My name is Sarah Barnes-Humphrey, and this is Thoughts and Coffee, where we come to you live at 10 a.m. Eastern to talk all about leadership and what's new in supply chain, especially with everything that's going on in the industry right now. So I am the founder and host of Let's Talk Supply Chain. I'm also the founder and host of the Blended podcast, which is the newest conversation in diversity and inclusion. And I'm super excited to be here with you today. So let's get started. We've got a lot of different things to talk about. But first, we always start the show giving you an overview of what's new with Let's Talk Supply Chain. So our brand new episode that released yesterday is with Schiffel. It's called Discover the Future of Freight Forwarding, and it's episode 233. And they are great. I can't believe what they're doing for the freight forwarding industry. They're bringing a lot of software and technology into the industry so that you can really work with your freight forwarder a lot easier and a lot simpler. So go and check that out because we talk all about who they are, what they do, how they can help you, why you should care, and the future of the company. So go check it out. That was episode 233, wherever you subscribe to the Let's Talk Supply Chain podcast. Plus, we have the video interview over on the Let's Talk Supply Chain YouTube page. So go and check that out as well. What else have we got going on? Ooh, we've got some events coming up. So Audrey is my guest today. She's also my guest on this panel discussion alongside Peter Tershwell for this Four Kites event coming up Tuesday, December 7th. And it's called The Four Silver Linings of the Chaotic Ocean Freight Market. It's at 10 a.m. CT, so I think that's 11 a.m. Eastern, and AJ is going to put the link to this particular post in the comments so that you can go and register today. This one's going to be a lot of fun. I mean, Peter Tershwell from JOC, and obviously you guys know Audrey, so we're going to have a lot of fun during that webinar. And then we've got Topple coming up every third Wednesday. They go live with us at 12 p.m. Eastern, talking about sustainability and blockchain. So you don't want to miss that. We've got Manifest coming up in January, the 25th to the 27th. That's going to be great. I'm going to be doing some podcasting live on site, and I'm also going to be running a panel on sustainability as well. And then, of course, this Friday, Eric Johnson goes live at 10 a.m. Eastern across all of our social media channels with Log Tech Live. And his guest for this Friday is Jet from Project 44. So you're not going to want to miss this. It's going to be great. And then, of course, we've got Coming in Hot with Abby Baird, and that happens every fourth Tuesday at 12:30 p.m. Eastern. Also want to let you guys know that we've got our follower of the month all the way from New Zealand. His name is Michael. You're going to meet him when we do the post for the follower of the month. And he's going to get our Let's Talk Supply Chain mug. And I can't wait to see the pictures of when he gets that. He's going to get that in about a week or so. And if you guys want our free supply chain dictionary, this is the Let's Talk Supply Chain Instagram page. If you DM us talk with the number 1, you can get our 107-page dictionary for free. So I highly recommend you go over there and do that ASAP. What else is happening? What am I doing? Oh, yes. So I've got a brand new newsletter on LinkedIn, and I wanted to tell you guys about it. It's called The Monthly Hustle, where we catch up on the hustle of entrepreneurship, supply chain, all things green, and diversity and inclusion. So hopefully you'll subscribe to my newsletter. We've got about 7,300 of you subscribed already, and we've got a new one coming out, I think either today or tomorrow, or at least actually, it might be next Monday because we're doing the first Monday of every single month. So can't wait to see you there. And then one more thing. So Blended is a podcast, right, about diversity and inclusion. We've now turned it into a nonprofit where we want to see visual representation on in-person stages and in audiences at industry conferences. And we've started a GoFundMe page because, yes, we're going to get corporate sponsors, but we also want to give individuals the opportunity to donate and be part of the impact that we're going to be making in the industry. So AJ is going to post that GoFundMe link if you want to go and check it out and donate so that we can make a visual impact on stages. Well, we are going to be doing that in 2022, and we would love to have you along for that journey as well. All right. So it's time to bring up Miss Ross. Hello, Audrey. Good morning.
We're both doing sort of the side sweep today.
We totally.
Mine is like
Well, and I don't know if it's snowing by you, but it's snowing by me, and the lighting is like totally messing me up today.
there's a light. There's a light flurry.
A light flurry.
Yeah.
Love it. I
Yeah.
need to move. Anyways, why don't you tell everybody who you are?
Sure. We can all Demo's here today. We can all move down and live with Demo. He doesn't know
Demo,
it yet.
we're all coming to Panama. Can you hook us up with somewhere to stay?
Yeah. My name is Audrey Ross. I'm here in snowy Toronto, Canada. I'm the in-house logistics and custom specialist at Orchard Custom Beauty, which is an award-winning business-to-business private labeling company specializing in cosmetics, beauty tools, and bath accessories. Definitely caffeinated today. It's a busy day today.
So Jeffrey says, unless the mug gets stuck on the water, it's actually being produced and shipped from Australia. So I'm kind of hoping it's going to get there on time.
Local-ish.
So we've got a lot to cover today. I think I sent you a plethora of links.
Well, there was like a few, and then there was another one, and then there was we should talk about this too, and then so
we should talk about this too. Well, I am going to spring on you because usually we talk about the question of the week, but I did a poll last week, and it was really around the disruptions, and I thought it was kind of fun. So we're going to talk about that one first.
Yeah.
So here's the poll. We asked you, how have you been affected by the current supply chain challenges? I mean, it was kind of a loaded question. We kind of knew that when we put that out there, but we got 174 votes. I mean, not everybody was getting ready early for Thanksgiving. 45% of you said, oh my God, help. 39% of you said minorly inconvenienced. I want to know who those people are. And 9% said no change at all. Audrey, are you shocked by this? Because I was kind of shocked by the results.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it depends on who you are and what you're doing, because I mean, if you're in services, maybe it's not having as big of an effect.
Okay.
Or like your minorly convenience, like my accounting department is minorly convenience because we keep having to shift the dates of when goods are going to arrive. And so that shifts the billing, but it's like, it's not like a drastic for them. Whereas for me, I was definitely in the, oh my God, help.
I think you actually did comment, oh my God, help, or you commented a little bit more. Yeah. So I want to say hi to some people over on my personal LinkedIn. We've got David, we've got Sean, we've got Gary and Galit and Peter all over on my personal LinkedIn. Good morning, everyone. And so glad that you're part of the conversation. So yeah, we had some fun with this poll. I want to take a look at some of these comments as well, because we had some really good comments.
Dolores.
Yeah, we had like Anna and we had Jocelyn and we had so many more people really talking about what it has kind of been like for them as far as the disruptions. And, I think it's really important for people to share what they've been going through and what that's been looking like. Like Anna, she runs the New York Food Bank.
Yeah.
And so she had a really interesting perspective as to what the disruptions really have looked like from like a food bank perspective and getting food to people.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's important for people's mental health. And also like I have, I don't think I've ever been this busy or this sort of overwhelmed. So, I mean, one, from the mental health perspective of like just the challenges of that sort of increased workload. And it's not necessarily because you've taken on additional projects. It's just the projects you have are taking so much more work. And then I feel like everything I'm doing, it's just like I'm playing catch up, and things that I love to do or things that I volunteer with, like have really, I'm just like, it's the thanks for your patience. Sorry I'm late. Sorry I'm delayed getting back to you. But I mean, I'm doing like 300 or something emails a day between like it's just, I can't even, sometimes I look at it and I'm like, I can't believe you did all of that.
Right. Well, and that brings us to our next point, which was my post on Sunday. So I do a post every single Sunday, talking about
Yeah, I love
different
this one.
topics within leadership or diversity and inclusion or sustainability and things like that. And this last Sunday was a focus on women in the workplace because Lean In, I don't know if you guys know, but leanin.org, I believe it's run um, by the lady at Facebook, and I can't remember her
Sheryl
name.
Sandberg.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes. And so, I got this in an email last week, and it was really the study around women in the workplace. And it was interesting to hear what they found. And some of the things that they found was that we were actually taking on more work as women in
Mhm.
the workplace. They were talking about how we're taking more responsibility for the work in diversity and inclusion, which again is increasing our workload. And we were feeling way more burnt out and unrewarded by the organization. And so those were some things that I thought were pretty interesting. I'm going to move over to the actual report here. And so AJ is going to put the link to this report in the comments because I think it's important for everybody to just sort of, read it and get an understanding of what kind of the transition over the last 2 years has kind of looked like for women in the workplace. But it also talks about how we can help. Right? It acknowledges,
Mhm.
it tells us, as leaders and as organizations, how we can acknowledge burnout and how we can advance diversity and inclusion. So it gives us an opportunity for a glance inside of what's happened in the last 18 months. And then it also gives us an opportunity to sort of change that around and change perspectives and change what we're going to do moving forward. What did you think about this?
Yeah, no, I thought it was so timely, and it really speaks to some of the commentary we've seen, some of the research that's gone into through the pandemic, and economically what they're calling like a she session, right, where women are dropping out of the workforce because with the pandemic and stay at home orders and schools being closed or schools being virtual, the majority of it, not, entirely, but the majority of women are having to kind of homeschool their children or kind of work out the daycare. And then once you've dropped out of that job, say last year you had to drop out of your job, like, how do you then get back in? And now there's still uncertainty. Like, is the school going to maintain? What if, I see this with my Girl Guides, we have them 1 week they're there, 1 week they're at home isolating, right?
Oh,
So when you are randomly have to isolate at home, I've had my coworkers have to like work from home and then kind of feel like they have to explain like it's because we're isolating some of my kids. And so there's that childcare piece that seems to still really majority land on women. So hopefully some of that public policy around childcare. But also, I was reading something that's sort of random, but I was reading something about, this workplace wanted to do a holiday cocktail on Zoom at 7 o'clock on a Thursday. And it's things like that, you can see, that's bath time for a lot of parents if you've got,
true.
sort of under sixes, right? I don't have kids, but it's like like you start to read these things, you're like, gosh, like, why would I plan a workplace activity, especially if it's virtual, you
Yeah.
know, for like the after hours? Why wouldn't I just have a lunchtime thing? Like my work we're doing it like a 3:30, 4 o'clock kind of
I'm
thing.
doing 4 o'clock.
Yeah, 4 o'clock on a Friday. And then
How
it's like,
I
that's it. We're going to have this little kind of get together virtual. And then we're done for the weekend. Happy holidays, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Well, and
but
I think, a lot of what I'm hearing from you too is just just having to explain yourself.
there's a lot of that for
There's a
women. Yeah.
lot of
There's a lot of
explaining,
that for
right?
women. Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
late emails, late
Yeah.
replies, not
Yeah.
being able to come into work because of so and so, not,
Yeah.
there's so
Yeah.
much explaining going on. And
Mhm.
that in itself is just a drain on mental health as
Yeah.
well. And I think,
Yeah.
just feeling like we have to,
Yeah.
for the 15th time,
Yeah.
explain the same thing over and over and over again,
Yeah.
is very draining as well. So I think, like you said, it's really timely. I hope everybody goes and takes a look at that report and brings it back to your organization. And maybe it'll give you some information and arm you with the information to go
Right.
back to the organization to have these conversations so that we can all really move forward. Well, we've got a lot to cover. So we are transitioning into our supply chain topics right now. So, the first article that we want to talk about is European supply chains. This is from a few months
Yes.
ago, and we did
Mhm.
post this on the Let's Talk Supply Chain social media because it really gives us an insight into what is happening in Europe. And what people are hopeful for. So, part of this article and what I kind of got out of it was that 63% of people in Europe think that things are going to improve over the next 12 months. But there's a really big gap because there's 26% of people that don't think it's going to improve and don't have the hope. So, my heart goes out to those 26%. But what did you think when you saw this article?
I love the sort of, I love when there's an infographic because that's
No.
like, I just get right. My brain is like, oh, that's fun. But no, I think it well reflects the conditions on the ground. We do quite a bit of business in Europe as well. And just, it talks about how there's been, increases in prices for components because they're late. So that could mean because you're air shipping them. It could mean just because now your production costs have increased because you're bringing more people on, because you have to turn that around faster. We've seen, in our industry, we haven't seen so many shutdowns of facilities as a whole, but I mean, that's, I think, industry by industry. But it hasn't, I think we can see this gives a good example of what the effect is and that there is an effect.
Yeah.
And then it has that ripple effect too,
Yeah.
right? It doesn't, it's like you have it, we've seen this in the supply chain throughout 2021, where you have one incident, could be something that happens globally, and that trickles out to everyone else. But I think this is a great article just because it has those concrete facts and figures that are sort of really easy to sort of reference and process, right?
Well, and it gives you an idea. It gives you an insight into region by region
Yeah.
what it's kind of looked like, right? Because we all know in our bubble what it's been looking like here and for us. And sometimes it's nice to just look outside of that and see what's happening. And it also creates empathy, right? If we know what other people are going through
Yeah.
as well. And I think one of the things that I took away from this article as well was that it was like a cry for help to the European government. And they actually were asking the European government to step in. So we've been talking about how, usually governments don't get involved in supply chains. But
Yes.
this article strictly asks the European government to step in and fund support research for
Yes.
future technology.
Yeah.
Because they think that the focus on the future of technology is going to help us in supply chain and help with any of these supply chain disruptions moving forward, which I thought was really, really interesting.
Yeah, I think one thought on that is that we've seen a lot of governments in a lot of regions, especially here in North America, had stepped back, sort of out of public policy, or, the sort of overarching theme was, oh, governments will come in when there's a problem.
Right.
And I think I just read this fabulous book, Mission Economy, Mariana Mazzucato. And it's like, no, governments should be the ones who are building and taking the risks and making that public, that policy so that companies can flourish and use that, right, and sort of propel themselves forward, right? But fundamentally, the government has to be the stability in the long-term view. So a lot of different perspectives on that, but a good art.
Absolutely. So go and check that out. All right, the next one is an oldie but a goodie. I mean, this conversation still keeps going. Walmart versus Amazon. I mean, I don't know when this conversation is going to get old.
We're
But
gonna be telling
Walmart,
our grandkids or something if we
I
have
know.
them. We'll find a
Walmart,
kid on the street and be like, remember?
are they still feuding? Anyways, Walmart is at 400 billion, Amazon is at 1.9 trillion. So there's still a bit of a disparity, but some of the things in this article that they talk about is how Walmart is going upscale with their partnerships because they've partnered with who is it? It's a Prime loyalty program, Prime like loyalty program,
Yeah.
American Express partnership, and DoorDash like delivery service as
Yeah.
well. And then they were also talking about onboarding third party suppliers like Amazon has done as well. But one of the interesting stats here is 90% of Americans live 10 miles away from a Walmart at any given point of where
Yeah.
you are in America.
Yeah. They spent the 90s building their infrastructure, and then now they're going to take advantage of all the new digital trends and technologies and partnerships. So, because I always think too that Target is also one of their competitors, right? Because Target always gets those fun collabs and stuff. And
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Well, and they mentioned supply chain issues, and they said that supply chain issues are a big test between Walmart and Amazon, but Walmart is using its size to negotiate with manufacturers. That one kind of made me cringe because I was like, if they're smaller manufacturers and they need a little bit, if we're talking about diverse manufacturers, smaller manufacturers, payment terms and stuff like that, like be careful on your negotiation. They said bulking up on its inventory. So, they're going to be holding much more inventory, which we spoke about last week as something to really consider when you're looking at your supply chain risk. And then they also talked about chartering their own ships to move goods across the globe. I'm surprised we haven't heard about that before now for Walmart, right?
Yeah, their supply chain has been a little bit on the quiet side because I just saw an article yesterday from a contact on LinkedIn, and it was talking about how other people are talking about the ports at LA and Long Beach, and meanwhile Walmart had bought a little side yard and has been turning containers for like the last month or something like that. And you're like, oh, surprise. So.
Well, I think we're going to be hearing more about that. I mean, if Costco chartered those vessels until the end of 2022,
Yeah.
I mean, look what's going to happen. I mean, that they're predicting till the end of 2022. And so, that's what's going to follow us around. All right. So we all talk about inflation. We all talk about the prices going up because of the supply chain disruptions, the supply chain challenges, the raw material challenges, everything kind of down the supply chain is causing inflation wherever you look. So there are groups on Facebook that want to change that. And they say one way to avoid inflation is to buy nothing. Sounds very, very simple, but at some point we do have to actually spend money and pay for things like food and things like that. But there are groups, which I had never heard about, called Buy Nothing groups. One thing about a couple of notes about inflation, prices for apparel were up 4.3% and prices for furniture are up 13%. But these Buy Nothing groups are organized online and they list items, everything from refrigerators, it says, to hair clippings, but I think that's for wigs, which is a little strange, that they would actually mention that, but maybe not. But it was started in 2013. These Buy Nothing groups were started in 2013 because it was a way of reducing plastic waste. And now, because of the pandemic, their membership base have grown by 2 million people. And people are constantly exchanging products on these Buy Nothing groups and everything is for free, which is really, really crazy. Have you seen it? Like, I've never even heard of this until last week.
Yeah. There's Free Cycle was one of the first ones that started. So that's like a local one that would pop up. It's like a Craigslist. Yeah, I mean, I think it's interesting the shift from Buy Nothing used to come out, and especially around, last week we've had sort of Black Friday, we've got Cyber Monday, today's Giving Tuesday, and things like Giving Tuesday and Buy Nothing kind of started in this kind of wave of consumerism and buying. But I think it's interesting that it's like, I'm going to combat inflation by not buying anything. I think it's just an interesting direction to take that in, but if it means people are buying less, consuming less, and it's better for the environment, I mean, I'm all for that. So whatever your motivation might be.
They're exchanging things for free. So it's not like you don't get anything in return. They're just saying that you're not actually
it's the bartering. It's we have all this, junk, and like who can actually use it. And if this gives you the marketplace to do that, and it saves you from importing a bunch of stuff at a high carbon cost, sure, go for it.
Absolutely. Well, Jeffrey says, if we bought nothing, how would we get our Let's Talk Supply Chain mugs? Well, Jeffrey, you don't. I mean,
prioritize your purchases.
Well, and if you're the follower of the month, you get the mug for free. Yeah. So I mean, it's it's all about the engagement, and that's the bartering system that we have. Right? For your Let's Talk Supply Chain mug.
You provide the engagement, we provide the mug.
That's right. So, we want you to be the follower of the month and to get your free mug. That's for sure. So stay tuned, because we'll be announcing another new follower of the month at the end of December. And that's going to be a great Christmas present for somebody. Just saying.
Yeah.
Anyways, we've got one more article, and this one I think is the most important one of
breaking.
Like, this is breaking news, people. as Canadians,
Yeah.
it's definitely something that we need to be talking about because we're dipping into reserves
And in a big way.
in a
I
huge
mean, that was
way.
a lot. That
But
was a big pull. So
so what are we talking about? Well, we're talking about the Great Canadian Maple Syrup Shortage
yeah.
and how Canada has had to tap into its strategic reserves. This is such an important topic, people, that it made it on CNN Business News. I
Yeah.
mean, Canada has made it.
Yeah.
Canada and maple syrup have made it. Anyways, this article, and it's fun, but it also gives us a lot of really, really cool stats around maple syrup,
Yeah.
which I didn't even know. But right now, they're tapping into half of the strategic reserves that we have of maple syrup. And actually, they said that Quebec produces 73 of all maple syrup in the whole entire world.
The whole
And in the pandemic or in the last 18 months, sales has rose 21%. And so they keep these strategic reserves to control prices of maple syrup and to control supply. But when the demand goes up 21%, they've had to go into the reserves to really keep maple syrup on the market. So what did you think about this? I mean, apparently more people are cooking at home. They need more maple syrup for
yeah.
their recipes.
Well,
Like
and if
what's
you,
happening?
it's, yeah, I mean, I think that the at home thing, we saw that increase in last year in like the production of flour. Um,
Mhm.
we saw, you see that on certain ingredients. Everybody wanted a sourdough starter, could not find a friend fast enough for the sourdough starter last year. So I think maple syrup too has become, it's a great substitute ingredient.
That's
If you're
true.
trying to, like a lot of people trying to avoid like refined sugars, white sugars, bleached products. So then it's like, oh, that's a great substitute. It's also delicious on its own or with things like French toast. So, I mean, my French toast consumption went up
So,
over the
well,
last
okay,
year.
I'm just gonna jump in real quick here because Melanie says start growing those maple trees
Yeah.
in your backyard. So, what I will tell you and what this article does talk about is how they are gonna add 7 million more taps over the next couple of years in
Yeah.
anticipation that
Yeah.
maple syrup buying is just gonna go crazy. So, Melanie, you might be onto a business idea.
Yeah.
Just saying because they're gonna add that many more taps, and you know, if
I
you
think,
have the
I think
right
the worry is that we get
stuff.
conscripted into service, though. That was sort of floating around on Twitter that there's, the maple syrup service that Canadians, mandatory participation in.
It also depends on where you live, right? Because
Yeah,
I don't know if they're gonna go outside of Quebec.
probably not.
I
Well,
don't know. We'll see.
there's some
Melanie,
here,
you'd have
some
to look
maple trees
into it
here.
a little bit more.
Yeah.
Just look into it a little bit more because I don't know too much about it. But you
Yeah.
might want to contact whoever these. Who is it? Oh, it's called the OPEC of maple syrup. It's owned
Yeah.
by the Canadian government or something like that.
Yeah.
Jeffrey wants Jeffrey wants to make a reservation for French toast with you, Audrey. Position, that is awesome. And then Melanie's talking about buying some land so that she can get part of this business idea. And I think is in as well. But his question is, what's the time frame to maturity for a maple tree, though? I mean, that is a good point because at the end of the day, you've got to know how long your investment is going to take to actually flourish for you. And if they're looking to put
Yeah.
7 million in the next couple of years, you got to make sure that that tree is going to be able to grow within that amount of time. So a couple of other things from this particular article that I didn't know. I don't know if you knew this, but the lottery in maple syrup was between 2011 to 2012, where 3,000 tons of syrup were stolen from the reserve.
So painful.
And they called it the Great Canadian Maple Syrup Heist. Do you know anything about it? Because I've never
Yeah.
heard about it before, and I did not have
Yeah.
time
Yeah.
to research it.
Yeah. It was fascinating, right? Because it was like siphoned off. You have these stores and then someone stole it. It's lore. It's a Canadian heritage moment. It's, yeah.
I mean, at the end of the day, Who would have thought maple syrup would be siphoned out of the reserves and stolen at 3,000 tons? I mean, how are you siphoning out 3,000 tons of maple syrup?
Like
I
you
just
just,
don't get it.
it could have been who just, you get a cup and you just.
That would take forever. No wonder it took 12 months. Anyways, that is our show for today. Thank you so much for everybody for joining us. I had a great time. I think Audrey had a great time. She's still laughing and smiling. I hope you guys have a great rest of the week. Next week, I am back with Rob from Mercado. We're going to be talking about first mile logistics. And I've got some really cool articles for next week as well. So remember to go and check out all of the links to the articles, the GoFundMe, the newsletters, all sorts of stuff. We'd love to see you out there over on the social media platforms and everywhere else. Thanks